to another episode of The Spark with me, your host, C2. Sorry. My windows were all screwed up, and then I clicked display, and then I was like, oh no, none of this is what I want. None of this is what I want. What am I looking at? Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of The Spark Talk Star Trek with me, your host, C2. I love Star Trek, and I want to talk about it. So that's what we're going to do. I didn't know. I had a guest. We're going to have a guest next month. Aaron TTV. I don't know. You guys know Aaron a little bit. Hi, Minecraft! Can't wait for more Talking Trek. We're Talking Trek. He was supposed to guest this month, but he could not guest this month. So it'll be just me this month. But the next month, we're going to have Aaron TTV Talking Trek with us, and I'm excited for that. I got a new plant. There's a tree in the middle of there. It's not really a tree. It's technically a succulent. But I got a new plant. And we're going to be talking a little bit about frickin' Star Trek Season 4, Episode 16. I think Season 4 might be my favorite episode of The Next Generation. I think my Season 4 might be my favorite season of The Next Generation. But welcome to The Spark. I'm your host, C2. The Spark, a show about what lights you up here on the Trident Network, a three-pronged digital entertainment network that produces live content here on Twitch right now, recorded content on our YouTube channel where you can find this show after it's recorded, and boasts a thriving podcast collective that posts on all podcast platforms. Here is the Trident links. If you don't already follow us at those places, please do. Proud new plant. Dude, I'm so excited about my new plant. Have I told you about my new plant? I have a new plant. It was a busy day this morning. I had to go get the right soil for it. I bought it on an impulse, and then I was like, I didn't even do any research about this plant. I can't kill it. It looks even happier than it was, though. It's getting its slurps on. I'm very excited. Today on the Spark Talk Star Trek, we are going to be covering Season 4, Episode 16, Galaxy's Child. Galaxy's Child. This one's pretty cool. I always forget the deal with this one. Let me just set this up. Okay. I'm gonna try and do some slides because I need some reference points. I'm gonna try to do Best Destiny's Child cover band. Galaxy's Child. I love that, actually. I love that, and I want that. I love that, and I want that. What am I doing with my life right now? Sorry, I got distracted by another thing. Galaxy's Child. So this one is, I don't want to say it's a bookend episode, but there's another episode, I think in Season 3, where I can't remember the episode. I should have researched this. There's an episode in Season 3 where Geordi's having an issue with the ship, and he needs help from the original, designer engineer of the ship. Her name's Leah Brahms. And he creates a holodeck version of her to help him solve the problem. They solve the problem, but then he gets, a crush and, develops feelings for this hologram. And then they leave it like that. Oh, yeah. And they leave it like that. And then he does that, but then it's okay, gotta leave the holodeck. Okay. But puts in the back of mind. This episode is where she is coming to inspect the Enterprise. Because Geordi's made so many different changes to the ship, and she designed the ship, she's coming to inspect it. So he's gonna meet her. He's gonna meet her in this one. And with this one, so they tell him he's gonna meet her. And Guinan, and he goes to talk to Guinan about it, and he's being romantic about it with Guinan. He's like, I'm gonna finally meet Leah Brahms. Nobody understands her but me. So he has this crush on this hologram, and Guinan's like looking at him. It's so good too. Whoopi Goldberg's so good about it. She's like, Jordy, you have a crush on a hologram. He's like, no, I get it. It's a hologram. And like, if I have not experienced literally the same exact thing in my life, shoot me, because there's been a million times. One of my good friends always says, I think it's Dr. Yesterday says, a crush is just a lack of information. And that is true in this context as well. So he's talking to Guinan. She's like, bro, you have a crush on a hologram. She's like, bro, you have a crush on a hologram. And then she meets him. She comes on there, and the first thing she says to him is like, oh, so you're the one who's fucked up my designs. She doesn't say fucked up, fouled up. She says fouled up, so you're the one who's fouled up all my designs. She's like, she's a bitch. And like, she's known like throughout Starfleet to like be a bitch. But it's just funny to me because she comes on, she's literally just a bitch to him immediately. And he's like, whoa. So that's happening. She gets pissed off at him. She's consistently pissed off at him. He keeps changing shit. He's trying to tell her about like what he's been doing, thinking that she's gonna receive it well. She receives absolutely none of it well. She keeps apologizing because she's like, I'm sorry, I'm just, I just love being an engineer and it's my life's work and I just care about my work so much, la la la. Meanwhile, so he's trying to like get her to be friends. And he is acting kind of creepy about it because he knows her, but he doesn't know her. This has to be commentary in every parasocial relationship ever. It is. Strap in. I've had him. You've had him. Let's talk about parasocial relationships. So, meanwhile, the Enterprise encounters this being. This, like, being that's, like, the size of a ship. It's like a whale, basically. It's like a space whale. They encounter this being, and they're like, what the fuck? This being, and it, like, attacks them with some energy beams, so they try to subdue it. They end up killing it. And then they find out that it's pregnant with another being inside of it. So then they're like, shit, we accidentally killed this space whale. And we have to save its baby or else we will feel so bad. Picard's like, oh my God, I can't believe I fucking killed the space whale. We gotta save its baby. Meanwhile, so before this, I deleted the other slide because I was going through it and I accidentally deleted it when I was gonna rename it. Basically, Geordi invites Leah to his quarters, is like, hey, maybe we should get to know each other, be chill. And it's like, I'm so glad that they had Geordi do, because Geordi's like a well-meaning dude. We know that Geordi's a good guy. He's not trying to be toxic masculinity captain or anything, but he is having a parasocial relationship with this woman and he is kind of being creepy to her. And she's kind of like confused, but she's like trying to open up to him, but she's also like, it's weird that you like know things about me and that you like are assuming a lot of things that are kind of true, but also are not true. It's very strange. She's getting this weird read on him, and this actress is great because she does like this, like just weird. She's like, you're being weird. Like her face is just always like, you're being weird. So that's where they're at. And then he kind of does a little, like, he's like, oh, we got to go into the conduits. We got to crawl through the conduits. And she's like, I know. So they go through the conduits and they're inspecting some of his, like, work. And she, like, congratulates him on his work. So, like, as she's kind of always perturbed by him, but also, like, really respects him as an engineer. So they're, like, getting to know each other actually. And he finds out she's married. That's the thing. In their meeting, he finds out she's married, and then he reacts weirdly, and then she's like, what's going on? Then the Enterprise does a successful C-section on this space whale, and the baby is born. And then Geordi and Leah have to work together to that was the slide that I deleted. So the baby is born. Oh no, here. Okay, this is it. Wait. The baby is born. My slides are all fucked up. The baby is born. But then I deleted the slide where the baby is connected to the Enterprise. The baby latches onto the Enterprise and is sucking it dry. That's what happens. The baby is draining energy from the Enterprise. Meanwhile, Leah Brahms figures out, so she has not known about this pretend holodeck version of her. This pretend holodeck version of her that Geordi created. She finds out that he had like a simulation or whatever for the engine stuff. So she goes into the holodeck and sees her. And then the Enterprise finally gets to be a mother. Yes, exactly. The one where the Enterprise finally gets to be a mother. So then she goes into the holodeck simulation. I scream at this part. She goes into the holodeck simulation and sees the holodeck version of herself, like being like, Geordi. Oh, it's so terrible too. And I'm like, why would the computer do this? Why would the computer do this? First of all, something about the algorithm, something about the computer, like, makes the hologram fall in love with Geordi, basically. So he's all fucked up about it. And the computer's like, the computer literally says something like, the engine is me, Geordi. Every time you're touching the engine, you're touching me. Every time, it's fucked up. So she sees this, and then he finds out she's on the holodeck, and then he runs in there. And she looks at him like, what the fuck? Can you imagine? And this has something to do with, you know, we've been talking about some of the recent AI things, the fucking face porn shit that's been happening where people's faces are being like superimposed onto bodies for porn and stuff, and how that's really fucked up. And I just standard parasocial issue. But yes, incredibly embarrassing and crazy. But it's good that it happens, because up until this point, I think Geordi doesn't really understand the gravity of what he's created. And I think that has to be said for a lot of parasocial relationships. You indulge in a fantasy because it's fun to do. It's not my fault. The computer made you ask flirty. Well, and then it did. And that was the other thing, is I was like, is the computer technically just doing what made you all flirty? Yes. Is the computer technically doing what you want it to do? So then, because it's like you're kind of flirting with this algorithm, you're kind of flirting with this hologram, so then the hologram flirts back. Maybe? I don't know. Because that was the curious thing to me. I was like, it's so weird. And this could just be a plot hole. But it's weird that the computer would be flirty towards him. But if he's being flirty towards the computer, then the computer's responding to that, I imagine. But yes. So she finds out about this hologram. She goes crazy. She's yelling at him. She's like, I can't believe you would do this! You're weird! Then, so she's like, this is weird! But they still have to work together. So they have to get this baby off the ship. So this is happening. Or makes sense for Geordi. We see him want to have a relationship of being bad at it. Yeah, and I think that's a common theme with Geordi. That they use him as like the guy who's like wants to get a girl, but doesn't really have game, or like is too busy being, you know, chief engineer to like have game, whatever. But he's trying, and he's putting in an honest effort, and he's never hi Smokey, he's never a dick about it. Like, the thing that I really appreciate, and this is because I think it's also because LeVar Burton is just a gift and a treasure. He's always willing, because as soon as this starts happening, he is examining how he has perpetuated this. As soon as he keeps running into this, it takes a while. Like, it takes a little while. of them, like, they keep butting heads, and, like, he's like, why is this happening? And then I think he kind of comes to the realization, he was like, wow, that hologram was really fake. Like, I really created a fantasy in my head, instead of really blaming her for being herself. And I think that's the thing that, like, people just kind of do. Like, you have a crush on somebody, you put them on a pedestal, and then when they introduce themselves and, like, are their real selves, you can become turned off and upset by that. And that can be dangerous in some situations, but in this situation, for some people. But then also it can just be kind of disappointing, kind of weird, but perhaps not the end of the world. So they still have to work together because there's this baby on the hull. And they find out where the mother was going. What they do is they find out where this entity was going to go, this being was going to go. And they take the ship there. They bring the baby to this area, and lo and behold, it's a bunch of them! It's a bunch of space whales! It's all the space whales! And they're there! And so the baby is like almost gonna drain the ship of its energy. Geordi and Leah do some maneuvering to, like, kind of bloop, plop it off, and it imprints on the Enterprise, but then ends up being popped off by Geordi and Leah, and it joins its space whale family. And Picard is so relieved that he doesn't have to kill this thing, because I don't think he was going to. I think he was going to let the ship suffer. Or I think he was going to let the ship just be consumed by this whale baby because he felt so bad about killing its mother. I don't know. We'll never have to know that because it joins its brethren. In the end, Geordi and Leah have a good laugh because she's like, I am kind of a bitch. Haha, I'm trying to be nicer, but sometimes I'm not. And he's like, oh, I'm a silly crush haver. I'm sorry that you thought I was being really creepy about it. I didn't do any sex stuff with your hologram. He doesn't say that, but it's basically like, it wasn't that serious. I just had a little crush on you, but I know now that you are not, you are you, and you're married, and we can just be engineering friends because I do really respect you and your work. And she's like, I respect you and your work, and it's cute. And then, I think that's it. That's the last bit of it. So it ends up really good, and it's really, they both acknowledge their part in whatever conflict they were having, and they tie it up in their friends, and it's nice. And it really warms your heart because sometimes in those instances, I think people are too embarrassed or too ashamed or too, caught up in their own shit to reconcile with the other person, even though the friendship is beneficial. And I think, and sometimes it's harder to, because they had just met, so it's not like they had been like, and it probably would have been different if they were friends for a really long time. But it was nice to see, like, this, like, horrible misunderstanding that would kind of, and it's good that I was just so glad that it was Geordi because, like, he means well. He's so sweet. And I love Geordi. We love Geordi. And for him to just, like, fumble, they have him, I feel like they have him fumble like this romantically. But he's, like, so sweet and nice that it's like, it's okay, Geordi, get back out there. Track Wars. Isn't that the show where the bald guy and the guy with pointy ears travel around in a phone booth? Yeah, Track Wars. That's it, Liam. You got it. That's the one. It might be one of the better holodeck commentaries, how making a real person is kind of weird. Yeah, and honestly, maybe we'll do a Barclay one because Barclay's relationship with fantasy and holodeck stuff is really great. And I really love the way they show him slowly but surely heal from, like, his anxiety, because Lieutenant Barclay is a character who has straight up holodeck addiction and like does get really weird. So they do explore the pitfalls of fantasy and the holodeck, and they do talk about how it's like you can get addicted to that kind of stuff, which is chill. Futurama had an episode like that with the Lucy Liu bot. Yeah, it's cool. I like that they talk about that, and I think it's worth it to examine it. Yay, he makes multiple people on the ship super creepy. Yeah, and and they're all terrible. It's crazy. And they all they're like, and they're so fucking pissed off. They're like, what the fuck, Lieutenant Barclay? Like, everybody's like, what's wrong with you? My dad loved Star Trek, but I never got into it. I was a Star Wars kid. Star Wars is like not even the same. They're not comparable in my estimation. They're completely different types of sci-fi. You can enjoy Star Trek and enjoy Star Wars. To me, in my mind, you can. But I really like sci-fi stuff. So that's how I feel about that. But fucking Geordi has a parasocial relationship and he heals from it. But I think Lieutenant Barclay has, the difference between him and Lieutenant Barclay is that he has, and that one with the gate, I can't remember its name. Stargate? Stargate something? I didn't watch that one. SG 720 or something? I can't remember what it is. Stargate something. Stargate a bunch of numbers. SG-1. Stargate 1? Is it called Stargate 1? But mainly what I took away from this episode is a nice little lesson about expectations. Oh, and then Guinan, he has a conversation with Guinan, and Guinan's like, did you learn your lesson? And I love when Guinan's there, because Guinan's like, Stargate SG-1. I didn't watch much of it, though. Yeah, I didn't watch Stargate. And I tried to get into Battlestar Galactica, but I didn't like it. Guinan's like, you always have to temper your expectations, Geordi. And I do really I love when they have Guinan. I love when Guinan Whoopi Goldberg just does such a good job of being like, she's like an all-knowing being. She's like an all-knowing, all-seeing entity. And I love Guinan's vibe. But, yeah, just a little refresher on parasocial relationships. Have you watched The Orville? No. I hear it's really good, though. But we're talking about Star Trek right now. That's what this one's for. We're talking about Star Trek. And parasocial relationships. And space whales. I was trying to find the common thread between the space whales and the parasocial relationship thread. But I didn't delve that deep into the connection. Sometimes they just have an A plot and a B plot. And sometimes they're trying to thread them through. Sometimes they just have an A plot. Although there's usually some kind of like little B plot. I think the space whale was the B plot. Because that was just like, oh my god. We killed that space whale, and now we have to perform an emergency C-section. But this space whale might kill us. Maybe something about minding your own business. Maybe something about minding your own business. Although the space whale did attack them. And they'd been tracking it. So it was a whole thing. Yes, this sounds a lot different to Star Wars. Yeah, it's, this is like, so Star Wars is like in a galaxy a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. And this is like in the future. I assume they wanted to do the holodeck story and needed a crisis. Hard to say. Yeah. That's probably true. And I imagine like the writers will have like a bunch of different scenarios, and then they've decided like how they'll tell those stories. So they probably wanted to tell the space whale story, but didn't have enough meat for that to be just one episode. So then they thread that in to like, oh, well, here we can do the space whales. We can do the space whales when we handle parasocial relationships, and that'll be sick. But I really liked that actress. I don't know what her name is. But I really liked I liked that she saw the holodeck, because the whole time I'm like, when this one, Star Wars is more like fantasy than sci-fi for me. That's actually, you don't think, yeah, they do, you know what? It's like space fantasy. It is a space opera, Star Wars. It is like a space opera. And they do use like magic, but it's like space magic as the like caveat, as the like qualifier for a lot. I can see that. I can see that now that you said that. Nobody's said that. But Star Trek is for sure sci-fi. And I guess it's the caveat in Star Wars is a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. So it's based in the past, in a different universe, possibly. This one is Star Trek is supposed to be like our future. I have been thinking a lot about some of the things that Star Trek comes up with that then becomes true, like touchscreens and like personal tablets, communicators, things like that. But also interesting that they touched on parasocial relationships before the advent of social media. I think you can have but I think also you could, parasocial relationships before were just crushes. They were just crushes with a person that you didn't know very well, that you knew of, but that you didn't know. And now the opportunity for parasocial relationships are never ending. I probably have some. I probably have more than I would think I do. You probably have more than you would think you do. The joke I do like is that we lost the technology of pockets in the future. Oh, yeah. That's true. Well, they don't have money. They don't have money. I like how I know of Pac-Man. Yes, but you know of Pac-Man. But you don't have you don't actually know Pac-Man. You know about Pac-Man. And you know what Pac-Man does for work. And you've played Pac-Man. But you don't know Pac-Man. You gotta be careful. You gotta be careful about who you think you know. And what your relationship is to them. I've definitely had experiences where I feel like I've been treated like someone knows me, but they don't. At different times in my life, a few times. Not even necessarily because of a crush, like how Jordy was. But I have also, and then I think about, there were definitely times that I've done the same thing. And I think it's a far more normal occurrence. It doesn't have to be freakish and weird. I think it's very easy to become enamored with someone in some such way. Even whether it's for friendship or crushship or something else ship. I have to remember that with all the streamers I chat with aren't my friends. I don't actually know them. Yes, there is. And there are associates. You know, like there are different ways to refer to people that isn't friend. like associates, colleagues. I don't love my follower, because that's, even if it's true, a follower to me is somebody that you don't interact with but who follows you, if that makes sense. Like, that's what a follower is. But if you do interact with that person, I feel like that's more than a follower. That's like a community member. I generally will say community members, because if my people on stream who come talk to me, they're usually in other people's streams, not always, but it's you, or they're from another person's stream, or like they share different streams in common, and like that's how I know them, I will say community member. And I like that better than follower. Even though I do have a cult and you can join it whenever you want. But yeah, it was good. It was really good. I just really like that they ended this one with them sitting down and having a drink and just clearing the air. Because there's a moment before they get together and solve the crisis of the space whale, where I'm like, oh no, like, is she just gonna leave and think that he's a creep forever? Jordy's not even a creep. He's a good dude. I love Jordy. And they tie it up, so that's good. And I think that's also a skill. That's also a skill worth training, is like trying to level with somebody. Some people are like, nah, I'm not trying to level with you. But in my personal life, this was a good lesson for me. And I like when Star Trek teaches me lessons. But yeah. If anybody else, have you guys ever had to clear the air? What do you guys feel about parasocial relationships? Do you have any feelings? The other thing that was interesting to me is that how the computer seemed to play a part in allowing Geordi to have a crush on this. Like, the computer wasn't like, no, I'm a hologram, I can't have romantic feelings for you. Like, there was no, like, the computer was like, yeah, whatever you want. Do we have a crush? You're doing crush stuff to me, I'll do crush stuff to you. I'm programmed to give you what you want. Kind of like, and maybe sometimes it feels like our computers or our algorithms are like, or like even the way we relate to people online, or that some people relate to people online, there's a not an uncanny valley, but a gap between like reality and reality and simulation, where you can fill in all of the things that you want, which is why it's really important that you don't have a crush on anyone on Twitter. No, but the main thing for me was how the difference that you see, where's the slide? The difference between these two characters, and the difference between, they're like supposed to be like the same woman, but is it the lack of information that the computer has, that it's just making up? But with the lack of information, why did it make him flirt with him instead of just be? Why did it make the computer flirt with him? Why was it the flirting? Was it because he was doing it? Was it because the computer was like, ah, yes, I see, and there's no answer for that. But I was just like, why do we think it made the computer flirt with him? Maybe because he was flirting with it, and the computer's like, yeah, I'm programmed to respond to your flirtations. Or was it that that's something that, like, the computer will do? I'm inclined, I guess when I say it out loud, I like that Geordi is basically a good representation for a lot of the male Star Trek fan base. A nerd who might not have luck with relationships, but doesn't get mad at the women he likes when it doesn't work out. Yeah, that's like the key thing that I love, is that he goes through the same motions that a lot of like nerdy boys would, but then the way that he responds to it is from a place of ultimately like caring about that person. And like understanding that like his relationships with the people that he might feel a connection to, or like his relationships with people, and keeping up that integrity is more important to him than getting his dick wet. Ultimately, I also think Geordi is like an accomplished chief engineer, so he has and he has like hobbies, and he has fulfilling life and friends. So that helps him. He has a support system that he can like then lean back on, and doesn't have to worry about like getting attention from a woman, because he has a fulfilling life too that he cares about and is thriving. But I was like, why is this computer flirting with him? And I think it's just because he was flirting with the computer. And the computer is like programmed to do what you're trying to tell it to do. What do they say? A computer is only as smart as the person using it. And do we think that's true? I think that's a little true. In terms of an algorithmic hologram. But I really like this one because I like when characters come back. There's a plot line with it was between this one and the plot line with Worf's girlfriend, baby mama, I should say. Worf's baby mama. There was it was either between this one or that one. But in the first one of this one, Geordi fucking has a crush on a hologram. And this is what happens when you have a crush on a hologram. One day you meet the real person. And they're a real person. Don't fall in love with a hologram. Have a hobby. Do a thing. Do a thing. Have a hobby. But yes, I like that one. I like that one. Season 4 of The Next Generation's pretty much so good. I was online and the internet was like, season 2 is bad, and I was like, is it? I'm biased because I like everyone. Yeah, Geordi asks great questions in this one. Yeah, he's like, he is. And the other thing that's great about it is that he's curious about his behavior. Like, he doesn't automatically assume that he was right, because he's like, wait, she was like, why is she responding so weirdly to me? And then I think he's understanding, as he's understanding what's going on, he's like, oh my God, I can't believe I did this. I can't believe I projected this like version of you onto you. I'm like, and as he's like he's like figuring this out, that he's done this, she finds the holodeck. So he's already doing the work. It's so good that he's already doing the work that he needs to do to be like, oh, I'm contributing to this dynamic in a regretful way. Oh no. And he's like ready to make amends, and then she finds it out. There's so much self-reflection through all of this show. Yeah, the thing about these characters too that's really nice is that they are flawed, and they do their flaws all the time, but they all have a level of self-awareness that allows them to learn and grow through their flaws, which is nice. A lot of shows, well, I think a lot of shows too, and that's what I think good storytelling is, like characters being themselves and like having flaws. because that's what makes life interesting. There are some shows where the characters like are just that, but I think all the good writing TV shows have their characters grow and evolve the whole time, and then they have like new issues that they have to face, and they have like new things that they have to come up with to deal with, because that's life, and it's okay. And sometimes you are a little bit of a fuckboy. Sorry, hologram. I am a little bit of a fuckboy. I did project my hopes and dreams onto you. Sorry. But I think that's okay. As long as you apologize. As long as you apologize and tell the real lady that you're sorry that you pretended that she was a hologram and you didn't get it. And maybe being out in space doesn't leave a lot of room for dating, and I'm sorry that I projected my ideal woman onto you, onto your hologram. I won't do that anymore. Thanks for being my friend. And it also probably helps that they were colleagues, and she could respect him. He wasn't just some, like, creep. Just some creep. But maybe no one is just some creep. Maybe everybody has feelings, you know? And always take the space whale baby back to its brood. Always take the space whale baby home. Don't just leave the space whale baby in space. Let it latch onto you and take it to its family. And that's what I learned. But yeah, that was a good one. I need to do a different season. I think all of my shows right now are from season 4. Next month we're gonna have Aaron, our friend Aaron TTV, on to talk track. If any of you guys want to talk track, let me know. The real treasure was the space whale baby we met along the way. It was! Yes, Aaron's gonna be the guest next time. The whale babies. The space whale babies. We'll keep on space whaling. And we'll apologize when we put someone on a pedestal right after we take them off. And that's what we do in the future. We don't have money, but we do have gay space communism. And that's what we do. We did it. Chat! Thank you for joining me to talk about Star Trek and parasocial relationships. It was a pleasure. He seems like a fun guy. Look forward to the next Spark. Yeah! Next Spark. I'll tell you the date. The next one is September 15th, 2 p.m. 2 p.m. Central. That's the next Spark. And if you liked me or this show, come back here tomorrow, August 19th at 8 p.m. and check out The Witching Hour, hosted by Em and Kayla, a hilarious gay stoner romp into magic and mysticism. That's tomorrow here on the Trident Network. Thank you for joining me, Smokey Minecraft and Liam. You guys always come through on the Spark. I really appreciate you guys coming through and watching a little show. A little show where I talk about stuff that I like. Next month we're having Aaron on. Here are the Trident links again if you want to check us out. I like to listen. I'm glad. I like to be live. It's working out. But yeah, those are the Trident links. Go follow us on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. We have stuff. We have recorded videos on YouTube. We have live shows like this one every month. And we have a thriving podcast network. If you guys like podcasts, you got to check it out. Go to the Trident website, check out the podcasts. But that is it for me. Next month, September 15th, we're having Aaron on. We're talking about Star Trek. I gotta support my real friend, who I totally know for real. We're all real friends. Good night, C2. Good night, everyone. Thank you for joining me, and I will see you next month.